What if I told you that your weakness doesn't disqualify you? It qualifies you, that God's not waiting for you to be stronger. He's waiting for you to surrender. We've been raised to believe that we have to earn breakthrough, perform for peace, strive for stability, but God doesn't operate like people. He doesn't need your muscle, He needs your yes. You keep trying to be enough, trying to hold it all together, trying to fake smiles in public and cry in secret, and all this time God has been whispering, I never needed your performance. I just wanted your permission. Because His power doesn't rise when yours does, it rises when yours runs out. You've been fighting with your bare hands, exhausted, frustrated, running on fumes, hiding it behind filters and fake energy. But let this moment tell you something. Holy, God can move without your momentum. He created the universe with a word. He split the sea without help. He raised the dead with no backup crew, and you think He needs your perfect life to do something powerful. No, He's God, because you're not. So maybe it's time to stop trying to be the hero of your own story and let Him be the one who saves. Maybe it's time to let the walls down, the pride down, the performance down, and simply say, God, I don't have the strength, but I still trust you. Because your surrender opens doors your strength never could. Your weakness becomes the exact place God pours His presence. You don't need to hustle to be held. You don't need to be whole to be used. You don't need to be strong to see the supernatural. And maybe, just maybe, your exhaustion isn't proof that you're failing. It's proof that you've reached the end of yourself and the beginning of God. You're not too broken, you're just perfectly placed for a breakthrough that you can't take credit for, that only He can get glory for. Because when it looks like you have nothing left, that's when God shows He was your everything all along. So today, if you're tired, if you feel like you're losing the battle, if you've been holding it together for everyone else while falling apart inside, you don't need more strength. You need more surrender. Let go of the pressure. Let go of the timeline. Let go of the need to prove something to the world, and let God be God, because He moves best in the places you've stopped pretending. He works best where you stop trying to be impressive. He shows up where you finally show Him your scars. And I promise you this, He's not looking for the strongest, He's looking for the most surrendered. And if that's you, then this is your moment, not because you have it all together, but because you've finally let go. So say this with your heart. I don't need to be enough because my God is. Let that become your posture. Let that become your healing. Let that become your identity, because your strength may end, but your story doesn't, and His power, it's just getting started. Because your strength may end, but your story doesn't, and His power, it's just getting started. And maybe that's why He's been calling you to rest, not because you're weak, but because you're finally ready to trust. You've been holding everything up, every relationship, every expectation, every wound you never had time to process. You've been the strong one, the responsible one, the one who keeps smiling while silently screaming for help. But strength is not the only way God works. Sometimes He works best in stillness, because rest isn't laziness, it's surrender. It's choosing to believe that heaven doesn't need your hustle, that God is still God, even when you pause. You've been taught that stopping means failing, that rest means falling behind, but that's a lie from pressure, not from peace. God is not disappointed in your fatigue. He's not measuring your value by your productivity. He's not impressed by your burnout. He's inviting you to breathe, because rest isn't quitting the battle. It's trusting who's already won. You've been running, fighting, fixing, forgetting that you were never meant to be your own savior. And when you collapse, God doesn't criticize, He catches you. He holds you in places where no applause can reach. He whispers to your soul, "It's okay to stop. I've still got this." Rest is a spiritual weapon. It tells the enemy, "I don't need to panic. My God has a plan." It tells your soul, "I don't need to earn what's already been given." It tells your body, "You're allowed to heal." And you may be thinking, "But if I rest, everything will fall apart." No, if you don't rest, you'll fall apart, and God didn't bring you this far to see you self-destruct, trying to prove your worth. Even Jesus, the Son of God, rested. He walked away from crowds, slept in storms, sat alone to pray, because divine power flows through surrendered stillness. So what if your rest is not you giving up, but you getting aligned? What if slowing down is how you hear the next instruction? What if stepping back is the most faith-filled thing you could ever do? You weren't built to carry it all. You were built to cast your cares, to lay them down at His feet, and walk away lighter. Not because the problem disappeared, but because you stopped pretending you had to be the solution. Rest isn't failure, it's faith. Faith that says, "My job is obedience, God's job is outcome." Faith that says, "I trust the unseen more than the urgent." Faith that says, "Even if I do nothing today, He's still working." And maybe right now, rest is your assignment. Not the rest you get in sleep, but the rest that lives inside your spirit. A sacred stillness that anchors you in chaos and whispers it is not all up to you. So breathe today, not because everything is solved, but because you've finally accepted you're not holding your world together. Let rest be your rebellion. Let rest be your weapon. Let rest be your worship, because in this world that glorifies exhaustion, rest is radical trust, and God honors trust with movement. Heaven hasn't paused just because you did. In fact, He may move more in your stillness than He ever did in your striving. So stop running. You're not quitting. You're finally trusting. So stop running. You're not quitting. You're finally trusting, and that trust, it begins in the silence, in the places where prayers go unanswered, where heaven feels closed and your heart keeps asking, "God, where are you?" You sit there, with hands folded, tears quietly falling, no word, no sign, no breakthrough, just the weight of waiting and the deafening sound of silence. But let me tell you something holy. Silence is not the absence of movement, it's often the stage of divine orchestration. Heaven has never been inactive. Just because you haven't heard anything doesn't mean nothing is happening. God doesn't go quiet because He's gone. He goes quiet because He's working deeper. You think He's ignoring you, but He's actually aligning everything around you. You think you're forgotten, but you're just being hidden for preparation, because silence is the space where God starts rearranging things in you, around you, through you. When you feel unseen, that's when God is looking most closely. When you feel unheard, that's when heaven is leaning in. When you feel alone, that's when angels are being assigned. But we hate the quiet. We want updates, we want signs, we want fireworks in the sky, and God responds with silence, not to frustrate you, but to focus you. 'Cause noise is distracting, but silence is where your soul becomes still enough to hear the whisper. It's where God doesn't shout over your chaos. He speaks into it, not to match its volume, but to shift its authority. And maybe right now you're in the middle of that sacred silence where everything looks still, but heaven is in motion. Contracts are being aligned, hearts are being softened, opportunities are being created, doors are being unlocked. But all of it is happening behind the veil of silence, and it takes radical faith to say, "I don't hear you, God, but I still trust you. I don't see it, but I believe it. I feel nothing, But I know you're working because that kind of faith doesn't need signs, it doesn't need sound. It just needs the memory of who he isn't. Maybe the silence isn't there to test your patience. It's there to reveal your posture. Will you panic? Or will you press in? Will you question everything? Or remember who holds everything? You're not being ignored. You're being invested in. You're not abandoned. You're being anchored, and what God is building in silence will be stronger, deeper, and more unshakable than anything built in the spotlight. So don't fear the quiet. It's not a punishment, it's a preparation, a holy waiting room where heaven is still moving. Even if your world feels pause, God doesn't waste silence. He fills it. He shapes destinies in it. He writes breakthrough through it, and one day, when the doors open and the answers come, you'll look back at this silent season and realize it was never empty. It was everything. So rest in that silence. Don't run from it. Lean into it, because even when you can't hear him, he's still hearing you. Even when you feel stuck, he's still moving for you. Heaven is working the midnight shift while you weep in the dark. He's weaving something that will stun you in the light. So breathe, be still, stay faithful, because silence is not the end of the story. It's the sacred setup for what's coming next. So don't fear the quiet. It's not a punishment. It's a preparation, a holy waiting room where heaven is still moving, even if your world feels paused. And maybe that pause wasn't the problem, maybe it was the plan, because the delay you're resenting is the redirection God is writing. You see it as falling behind. God sees it as realignment. You think you missed it, the chance, the calling, the relationship. But heaven never misses. God doesn't schedule your purpose by the pace of the people around you. He aligns your life to his eternal blueprint. Sometimes that means he slows you down to protect what he's building inside you. You were ready to run. He was still healing your foundation. You were rushing for success. He was anchoring your soul, because what's the point of getting there if the real you isn't whole enough to hold it? You're not being punished, you're being positioned. It just doesn't feel like it. Because realignment often looks like resistance, like detours, like shutdowns, like why not now, God? But here's the truth, you can't be in the wrong place if you're in the middle of his hands. You're not late, you're not lost. You're not forgotten, you're being reformed for the right season, and that requires letting go of every comparison, every voice that told you you should have been further by now. Every inner critic screaming you're wasting your life, because realignment doesn't mean speed, it means accuracy. God is aligning your identity with your calling, your character with your assignment. He's not just sending you somewhere. He's building you into someone, and when the world says you're behind, heaven says you're exactly where I need you to be. He didn't bring you this far just to leave you mid-process. He doesn't do almost, he doesn't do halfway. So maybe the closed doors were divine, the broken plans were protection, the moments that felt like loss were the soil where purpose took root, because if he had given it to you when you wanted it, it might have crushed you. But now you're not just waiting, you're being refined, realigned, ready. Door delay is sacred. Your pause has purpose, and your timeline was never yours to carry anyway. So breathe, take the pressure off, stop mourning the pace of others, and start trusting the placement of God. You're not out of step, you're in his strategy. And when the time is right, when you've healed, when you've grown, when your heart can hold the next level, hole open the doors without struggle, and what once felt like too late will suddenly feel like just in time. So if you're watching this feeling like your life is stuck, that you've wasted years, that you missed your moment, let me tell you this. God's not done, you're not late, and this chapter isn't chaos, it's calibration. He's aligning you with destiny. Not popularity, not perfection, purpose. So no. You're not falling behind, you're falling into place exactly where heaven always meant for you to be. So no, you're not falling behind. You're falling into place exactly where heaven always meant for you to be. And even if you got there limping, even if your hands are shaking, even if your heart is bruised from all the waiting, God still calls you valuable because your soul, though tired, still holds the fingerprint of heaven. You may feel worn out, but you were never worn down in His eyes. You may have nothing left to give, but He never needed you for what you could give. He chose you for who you are, and who you are, even in burnout, even in silence, even in defeat, is still worthy of divine love. This world has trained you to perform, to keep going, to smile through exhaustion, but God sees beneath the mask. He sees the soul behind the schedule, the heart behind the hustle, and He says, even in this I'm still with you. He doesn't abandon tired people. He draws closer to them. He doesn't avoid your mess. He meets you in the middle of it. To think your weakness is failure, but heaven sees it as an open invitation, an invitation for God to hold you, heal you, restore what life tried to steal, because you are not just useful to God when you're strong, you're just as sacred when you're spent. So if your prayers feel empty, if your faith feels cracked, if your heart feels numb, you are still not invisible to God. He hears the silent screams, the unspoken grief, the weight you carry quietly so no one else has to. And still, He loves you, not the polished version, not the I have it together version, but the version that says, God, I'm tired, and I don't even know how to keep believing. And do you know what He does with that honesty? He honors it, He meets you in it, and He whispers, even here, you're mine. So don't think your tired soul has disqualified you. It has made you more reachable, more moldable, more available for grace, because He's not waiting for you to recover before He calls you. He's already called you right in the middle of your weariness. You're still chosen, still covered, still carried, even now, especially now. So if you're here tired, confused, waiting for a sign, wondering if God still remembers you, let me tell you something you might not believe right now. The miracle is already in motion, you just haven't seen it yet, because God doesn't always work in the spotlight. He works in the shadows. He crafts breakthroughs in silence. He builds testimonies in secret. He aligns everything in places you can't see, and just because it hasn't surfaced doesn't mean it's not alive. What you call delay, He calls design. What you call invisible, He calls intentional. You're asking, why isn't anything changing? But God is whispering, everything is shifting, just not where your eyes can see. That closed door, it's protecting you. That long wait, it's stretching your faith. That silence, it's planting roots deeper than you've ever known. He's working in the background, healing hearts, moving people, breaking chains, opening new paths. In the craziest part, you might only realize it when it's done, when you look back and say, I didn't even know He was moving, but He was. That's how God works. Not always with lightning, but with layers. Not always loudly, but always lovingly. And just when you think it's too late, He shows you it's actually right on time. So don't give up right now, not when you're this close. Not when the pieces are about to come together. Not when God's been silently building your miracle behind every heartbreak. You are not stuck. You are being set up for the testimony, for the comeback, for the divine plot twist that will leave you speechless. And maybe, just maybe, this entire season of struggle will become the chapter people point to and say, That's when God showed up, so get ready, because the stage is being set, the curtain is about to lift, and everything you thought was wasted will be revealed as part of the plan. You're not forgotten, you're not being punished, you're being prepared, and the miracle, it's not coming, it's already happening behind the tears, behind the waiting, behind the fear. Heaven is moving, and now it's your turn to move, to not because you see the outcome, but because you trust the author. So take the next step, start again, speak the prayer, apply for the door, dream the dream, try one more time, because your story isn't stuck. It's on the edge of something supernatural, and you're not just watching a miracle, you're walking into one.